This is my multimodal presentation by Mary Grace Jimenez. My research question that I have been focusing on this semester is, what are the impacts that No Child Left Behind has left on the public school systems in the United States? And this was signed in 2002, but didn't go active into the classrooms until the year 2004. Topic of discussion. The issue with No Child Left Behind is a popular topic in the field of education since it directly impacts the classroom. It's also popular because it has forced teachers to change the way they manage their curriculum and the way they teach their classroom. No Child Left Behind. According to Mitchell Yell, a writer, No Child Left Behind is a legislative sign by President Bush that aimed to improve 3 different aspects of education. 1 was having students achieve proficient levels for all students in America on standardized tests. So by the year 2014, President Bush predicted that every single student in America would reach proficient level on all aspects of all standardized tests. This is a very admirable goal, but it's pretty unrealistic. And number 2, all students be taught by qualified teachers. If you think about all of the public schools in America, imagine having every single one of those teachers be qualified. It's very unrealistic, and many teachers are not qualified, but it's difficult to even find teachers to teach elementary students. And thirdly, all students graduate high school. President Bush hoped by 2014 that every single student that entered elementary school would graduate high school. The positives versus negatives. There are very few positives, but the positives that there are very strong and firm. One of them is schools must use scientific-based research. So whatever lesson plans that teachers use now must be scientifically based, and they must be proven that they provide progress for students. Number 2, it provides equality for students who are not as privileged as others. So in order to have an education, there needs to be public schools for students who are in lower socioeconomic status, because many students are in low-income families. If there were not public schools that had qualified teachers and good classrooms, they would not even get an education if it weren't for public schools. Number 3 is that it emphasizes on math, reading, and writing. And these are these are like the fundamentals that will produce successful students whenever they graduate high school. Now to the negatives, and these are just a few of the negatives because there are a large amount of them. Number 1 is that it is federally underfunded. When President Bush signed this legislative, he underestimated the cost it would take in order to produce these test scores and provide the needs that teachers needed in school districts as well. Also, teachers teach specifically for test results, not for learning. And because President Bush wanted to make sure that students' progress was monitored by state tests, teachers feel the need that their students need to be able to take tests. They need to be able to know the tricks and stuff in order to be successful in taking a test, because there are many students who are smart, but they just are not capable of taking tests very well. So teachers feel pressured to strictly teach test methods instead of just teaching them a well-rounded curriculum. Number 3 is that states set their own standards. There are many states that feel that if there was a national test that everybody took, their children would not be proficient. And so many states lower their standards in order to produce test scores, which is definitely a negative because that leaves some states behind others. And lastly, acquiring qualified teachers. As I touched on before, it is very difficult to find qualified teachers because it's just unrealistic to imagine every single teacher in America being qualified. If you think about other occupations, like there are possibly some doctors are not qualified. If you think of, bankers. There are some bankers that are probably not qualified to bank, but yet they are still able to. So this is just an unrealistic goal to make sure to have every single teacher be qualified. The research that I'd plan to do is doing a survey of teachers, especially ones that have been teaching prior to No Child Left Behind, because they are really able to notice difference between how it was No Child Left Behind and how it is post No Child Left Behind. Next is I would like to observe assessments that were done on students. So a lot of public schools do, just practice state tests, and my elementary teacher that I go and observe, she allows me to look at her students' work that has happened. Next, question students' opinion of being assessed by standardized testings, because there are some students that feel their best work does not reflect standardized testing, or like standardized testing that they take does not reflect their best work. They feel that there could be another method of assessment that would show their progress better than standardized testing. And the last one is just peer-reviewed scholarly journals, just to look at what professionals are saying about this legislative. The answer to the question, my research question, is that No Child Left Behind has negatively impacted the education system in America in a variety of ways. The negatives of this legislation heavily outweigh the positives. Also, this question is important to educators in my field, because the future of our nation is depending on our children's education. And if this legislative is not showing progress within 10 years, our government needs to do something else in order to make sure that our children are getting the education they deserve and they need. Continued. My argument is mainly that the goals of No Child Left Behind are admirable but totally unattainable, and that it puts a lot of pressure on teachers to produce test results. It's not the teacher's fault if the student cannot take a test. It kind of forces teachers to think that it's their fault if their students cannot produce test results. Also, I said this before, but teachers tend to focus on test results instead of just giving them a well-rounded curriculum. Our students need a well-rounded curriculum instead of just learning how to take a test once every year. And also, students' progress is monitored by standardized tests, which does not accurately assess students' achievement, because there are many different ways that students show off their best work, and standardized testing is not the best way. The rest of the things that I need to collect over the rest of the semester, I need to gather the information surveys and read what teachers in Oxford think about No Child Left Behind. And also, I have to interview one of the principals and how he feels No Child Left Behind has affected his middle school. And also, I would like to interview some students and how they feel about state standardized tests. There's why we're excited.